Hey guys, how you doing? It's nice to meet you all. My name's Ryan. I'm going to talk you through today a bit about what we've done in the world using AI. Honestly, it's nothing hugely special. It's no innovating tech. We're not doing anything that's, I think, is a huge lift. I've been very thankful to be part of the Hub and Prigian for probably the last 3 years now, and it's honestly just coming to sessions like this, picking up little tidbits that we apply over time, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. If you have any questions, please just shout them out throughout. You don't have to hold them to the end. Often there's something that I can clarify a little bit more and give you some context. So just shout out when it makes sense. A couple of things we'll talk about today, a little bit about the Duck's approach to operations and how I think about operations overall, how to kind of think about your knowledge hubs, where they sit and how to kind of decide on what a knowledge hub should be and where it should be. How to do some knowledge retention and some practical examples of how we've done it so far, and then a little bit of an impact as well. So I'll talk about the impact of what that's meant for the team and the impact it has on the people, but also a couple of financial impacts as well, which I haven't really shared much in the past, and I did some research before to figure out exactly what we've done. Cool. So a little bit about myself and a little bit about Chunky Duck. My life started and kicked off and catapulted when I was 17 years old. I got selected in the Australian schoolboys baseball team. That ended up getting me a scholarship over to the US. I played baseball and studied for 5 years over there, got my bachelor's, got my master's. It was a hugely fun journey. If anyone's got kids that are good at sport, go to the US, they'll give you a scholarship. There's no HECS debt at the end of it. So that's a big win, especially as most of you are probably paying for school these days. I came back, started working in an agency. It was a performance agency. I was working largely in Google and in Facebook ads. It had really just kind of started to get underway. And so that was kind of the very first work experience that I got. Fast forward 5 years, I had a major health issue, got bedridden for 10 months. What happened next is probably best described as a quarter life crisis. I decided, I met a girl, decided that what I needed to do was ride a bicycle across South America. So we followed the Andean mountain range from Ushuaia all the way to the bottom to the top, about 11,000 kilometers over a year. A very spiritual journey for myself. I ended up coming back deciding that marketing was the devil and I never wanted to do it any longer. And I went into my other passion, which is the ocean. And I worked at Sydney Aquarium for 3 years. Firstly, as part of the penguin team, Arctic penguin team, taking care of the animals there. I'm also a commercial diver, so working in the tanks, feeding the sharks and animals, stuff like that. COVID happened. They decided that you don't need to take care of animals if there's no one coming through to look at them. And so I got made redundant and went back into the world of advertising and founded Chunky Duck within about 6 months of being made redundant. So it's an odd journey, as most founders are, to get to this point. Probably one part to let you know is that there's a really key connection between South America and my previous career, is that I got really good at Google Ads and all the changes I was making were the same. And so I created all these rules and automations that would run campaigns while I was in a different continent, and the clients were really happy with the work. And so I kind of found a way to start being able to automate myself out of a job and be able to do 10 or 20 hours a week rather than the full workload. In terms of Chunky Duck, really our vision and what we stand for is the creation of independence and adaptability for our clients. So often we have people come towards us saying, I worked with this agency and they built us a website, and every time I want to change a damn thing, it costs me $5,000, and that's frustrating. And so we really tried to go out and build a model that was like, no. We're kind of going to give you how to do this website. We're going to send you Looms and this kind of how-to guide of how to manage it, and you can make all these changes yourself without us. And that's been a really key kind of driver for us. Our values, and this really kind of links into my belief in the business, empowerment. Every individual has a propensity for success. It's really about the environment and scenarios that they are in that dictate whether they achieve that or not. Everything in life is creative, whether it's being an artist or whether it's coming up with fun solutions or creative solutions to problems within your business. Chunky Duck is a lifestyle business. I work about 35 hours a week. That's very intentional. I have a couple of little ankle biters, which take up a whole bunch of my time. Asynchronicity is a really important part. Chunky Duck is a fully remote business. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then we're fully transparent. We open up everything too. If you want to see our timesheets, you want to be in our CRM, you want to see all the data we have, we share everything openly. And that's a part of our kind of knowledge retention hub as well. As I mentioned, my life has been big in the performance world, but we have kind of this big creative and tech arm, build websites for Live Nation. If anyone's going to Spilt Milk to see Kendrick Lamar, we build websites kind of like that. So, yeah. As I briefly mentioned, we are 100% remote. You can work from anywhere that's within an Australian time zone. So that's pretty much Australia, a bit of Indonesia, Japan, Eastern Russia, if that's your thing. And pretty much if you're in that time zone, you're happy to work with us. Team members often go spend a month or two in Bali because that's what you do when you can work remote. We have flexible working hours and days, so you pretty much work when it suits you best. And we have an asynchronous culture, so we do our absolute best that you don't have to be present in a meeting to still benefit from the knowledge that was created at that time. Cool. So a little bit of a thinking about how we approach operation and the role AI plays. I played in the US, I got big into the world of US sport, and so I believe in a system called process thinking. Has anyone heard of process thinking in the past? Yeah, a couple of you have so far. To me, it's really thinking about what it is that I can control today. What are the outcomes that I have an influence on? Rather than thinking about, hey, I want a $10 million company or I want to buy out in 20 years, which is unreasonable. In the same way in sport, you don't think about winning the championship and that's not the goal. It's what can I influence, not just today, but in this game, within this quarter, within this 6-second play that's about to happen. How can I have an influence and an impact in that time? It's really about those daily actions, behaviors, creating positive routines where you're giving yourself the time to be successful. Recently, I've gone on a little bit of a health kick, was getting into some bad habits, snacking at 10 p.m., which was telling me my cortisol and stress was through the roof. I knew that to get back to a positive mental space, I needed to exercise more. So I made half an hour a day. I got up half an hour earlier because no one has any extra time to simply go and run and make that time for myself. And I know that just by simply doing that in the coming weeks, I will feel better. My stress will be less, and that'll be a positive thing. It's about understanding the routines and the processes that create success. A couple of resources for you for some of you want to look a little bit more into. Does anyone know who this man is? Awesome. This is great. This is Coach Nick Saban. He is the most winningest coach in US college football history. He's what created University of Alabama's football program to what it is today, which is arguably the best college football program in America. He's an incredible man. I follow pretty much everything he has to say. I've read all of his books. And what I really believe in and what I've bought in is the understanding of being disciplined in what you do. And if you can withstand the pain of discipline today, you'll avoid the pain of disappointment tomorrow. The other one that I really encourage you to focus on is something called marginal gains theory. This is about taking all of the things that you have influence over in your life. It might be 100 things, it might be 1,000 things. And for each one of them going, how can I make it 1% better? Just by simply improving each thing a little bit has a huge cumulative impact. Has anyone read Atomic Habits? Yeah, this is a great example of cumulative impact and what good habits can have on you. It really comes from marginal gains theory, which was championed by sport again, the UK and the English Olympic team before the London Olympics, and they had their best Olympics ever. It was really looking at what pillows are our athletes sleeping on, what pair of socks are they wearing, every single thing that they could control, and how could they make it a little bit better. In terms of our business, I've always liked to think that agencies are like a business on easy mode. We don't have manufacturing plants. We don't have stock that expires over time. We really just have hours that we're trying to sell as best we can. But how we work as an agency, everything starts with research and strategy, understanding your brand, position within the market, giving you a recommended strategic approach from that. Creative and design, so creating the assets that speak to those people, whether it's what customers they are and what audience that is, amplifying that through media, and then the kind of at the very bottom is the account management reporting. This is kind of where all the time gets sunk into account management, and so it's the first area that we really focused on, and that's where I'll give you some of those practical examples. Everyone here has customers. Some of you will have very small customers, some will have big clients in a B2B sense. These are really practical across a whole bunch of those. A couple of beliefs, these are my personal beliefs, but I guess as I run the agency, they're the agency's beliefs as well on AI. The very first one is that AI should not be given decision-making power. at least not yet. We strongly believe that it shouldn't be making any decisions at any point in our business. Goal for us is to surface information to help our team make decisions, because it simply doesn't have the understanding of context that a human will yet. Next is that we believe that AI will democratise features across SaaS. This is a really key part when we talk about the technology stack, picking a knowledge hub, and where you're going to try and focus all of that information, is that we believe that we'll use less different apps in the future, and that the apps that we do concentrate on will have a larger feature set, because AI enables more code to be written at scale, which expands those features more easily. The last one is that AI will get better over time. And so while I think of a workflow, it might be able to do 10% of that. In the future, it might be able to do 20, 30, 50. And the goal is to be able to make AI a part of that. And as the technology gets better over time, we simply expand part of that workflow that it's involved in. Cool. So let's talk about knowledge hubs and building knowledge hubs. It's something that when I got the opportunity to start an agency, it's not very often you get to start fresh and pick your technology stack straight off the bat. But these are essentially the apps that we use to manage our agency. Now, obviously we do things like design, and we use Figma, and we use Adobe and all those sorts of things, but these are what we would consider our operational stack, which is the running of the business itself. A lot of these will be common to you. So Google Workspace, a lot of people are going to know that. Same as Microsoft, it's just the standard Office apps. Productive is our CRM. Slack is pretty much how we message internally. I know that you're going to start to realize here, like, hey, Google has Google Chat and things like that. You're absolutely right, it does. And there's a lot of feature crossover here within this. Notion is our employee handbook, and all of our internal information about our business and how we work within our business is stored there. Bitwarden is where we manage all of our passwords and access and 2FA codes and everything like that. Grain is our meeting recorder, Otter, and a couple of others here as well that people have been using. Loom is what we use to record our screen, so that asynchronous communication through Loom. PandaDoc essentially allows us to write our contracts, and FigJam is kind of our process workflow, how I kind of work out all of this stuff from there. But what we have is kind of what I would call 3 core applications within our organization. These are what I would consider to be our knowledge hubs. And there's a very critical reason for that is that whenever we pick a piece of software for our business, the first and most important question is, does it natively communicate with the other pieces of software that we use? And I think that's a really key part here. The creation of Zapier was a wonderful tool. Zapier is great and it has a lot of uses. I also hate it. I hate it because it breaks more than I would like it to. And so we don't ever want to have to maintain any of the connections between these apps. We don't want to be maintaining the API endpoints. We don't want to be maintaining any breakages. If the native integrations break, it's on these software providers to fix them, and they're far better at it than we are. That's not our skill set. And so we very much look at what integrates with what. To start off, it's pretty easy. All the information from Productive feeds into Productive. Same for Notion, same for Slack. They all keep their own information within them, and that's a great start for us. As you kind of go down the different stack, you start to kind of see that, well, Google Workspace has a native integration with Notion, and so I've connected those two. And so if you're in Notion, you can actually see all of the documents that we have in Google as well. That's a really key part of that connection. Bitwarden, we share a lot of the information as well into Notion, as it's an internal password management. While we don't push all the passwords in there, you can certainly see all the different things that we have access to within it. Spark, which is our email client. So while we use Google or Gmail, Spark is the email client that we use. That integrates with Productive. And so our CRM, which has all of our customer data, pipeline, invoicing, all of those things within there, now has all of the different emails that have been sent to that client. So we have a feed, a permanent feed of all the different comms that we have with those clients within our CRM. Grain is a pretty simple one. Now, there's a lot of different recorders out there. The reason that we chose Grain above all of the others was it has a deep integration with Slack. Now, most of the apps you'll come across might have a surface level where you can send messages from the meeting recorder into Slack. But what we wanted was for Grain to be able to contextually understand who are the meeting attendees here. and what Slack channel should they be giving that information to. And so every time we have a meeting and a client attends with whatever their email address is at the end, we can link that to a specific Slack channel. So at the end of that meeting summary gets pumped directly into that channel. And that happens for every single meeting that we have with that client. That's a really key part, that it doesn't just put it into a single channel where all of the meeting recordings are, it puts it into the specific client one. Loom's a little bit of an interesting one, integrates with Notion and with Slack as well, and so we can post that information there. It's able to read the transcripts within, and so there's some additional content available there. PandaDoc, which is our contract software, that integrates with Productive. Productive has our full pipeline in it, like a pipe drive at the end. The contract's linked to that. It's signed off. That all integrates as well with the other apps. And so essentially anytime a contract is signed, it's passed into the CRM so everyone can see what was signed off and what was approved. FigJam, so all of this craziness that's in my head goes into FigJam. I can then share that in Notion. Anytime I make a change to a process or a workflow, it automatically updates in the team notebook. Xero is linked to Productive, and so anytime we send an invoice out, it automatically reconciles that within Xero, and so we can track all of the invoices within that system. ChatGPT feeds that into Notion as well, so we can capture that information there, and then pretty much for everything that doesn't work with each other, we have Zapier to make that connection for us. And so what you kind of see here is all of these operational pieces of software that we use can all in some way be linked to these three apps. That's a really key part. So right now we have 3 knowledge hubs. What makes it exciting a little bit for us is that, well, we can actually link the Slack channels into Notion, or we can share some of the information that's saved in Slack into Notion. Notion and Productive are working on a native integration right now. It's not here today, but very soon it will be here, and we'll be able to share that internal handbook information within the CRM as well. But Productive also talks to Slack. And so anytime something is triggered, so let's say a client reaches 100% of their retainer, an automatic notification can go into that Slack channel in Slack for that client saying, hey, we've reached the maximum hours. And that tells the team essentially, hey, we've got to wait a couple of days till the next month when the retainer renews. And that keeps all of our people on the same schedule in terms of working. Cool.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Is the data actually being moved into the other systems, or is it a pipe that just pulls it when you need it?
Some is, not everything is, some is it's automatically being piped in and the information's being transferred. And sometimes it's just an integration where they have access to that information, but it's not being moved from one into the other. So it varies. Yeah, it's a vary. So I'll give you an example, Google Workspace and Notion, we don't put all of our documents in Google Workspace into Notion. We just have an integration with that so that when we use Notion AI and query that database, it can pull all the information from Google Docs as well as part of that check.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't appear to have a project manager in that list.
CRM is, Productive is our project
So that's
management.
got those.
Yeah, it's in there as well. So what we really love about Productive, and it is an agency-based CRM, so if you're running an agency model, we can track hours on the client, on the budget, on the service line, on the task. And so we can measure profitability across clients, across projects, across specific workflows, specific services. So we get a lot of lines of understanding the profitability, average rates, effective rates, utilization, really those key agency metrics can all be tracked in there because it's being measured time against budgets within the task management too. Cool. So let's talk about future-proofing this, because while it's all great to go and connect all this information now, you don't want to have to redo it in the future. And that's something that we're really key on and really critical about is I believe that as AI gets better, it's going to democratize the tool set. And I'll give you some examples of that. So I'll just start with Productive as an example right now. So Productive's been around for probably 5 or 6 years. We love it because of just how rapidly they're able to roll out new features. One example for you at the moment is they, in the last 18 months, rolled out a internal documents feature that allowed you to write essentially a very basic work document within there. Now, all of the writing work, if we're writing blogs, if we're writing any type of written-based content, rather than it being in a Google Doc, it's now in a Productive doc. They're currently working on presentations and on spreadsheets as well. So what we're getting to is a space where Productive is going to be able to provide a lot of the features that Google Workspace currently provides us, but it has the ability to be contextually tied to that client in that CRM. So that's the first example of a little bit of an infringement here on another piece of tech. While the new Docs feature in Notion is effectively the same as what we use in Notion, we really don't use most of what Notion has. We don't use it for project management. We don't use a lot of the features within there. What I'd love to do is essentially take all of that Notion information and put it into Productive. Because there's a native integration coming, I don't want to invest the time to move the 14,000 pages that we have manually from one to the other. So we're just essentially going to sit back here and wait. We don't need to rush it. There's no advantage to quickly going out and moving that information across. But at some point, whether that's 3 months from now, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, that integration will happen and we'll be able to port all of that information in Productive and essentially just knock Notion off our tech stack because it doesn't provide a function that we need anymore because a different piece of software does. And that's really, really key. Grain is the next one. Grain is a really interesting one. It's getting an assault from multiple different pieces of software at the moment, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the future, but Grain is certainly something that Productive is looking at providing, is being able to link your CRM to your meeting recorder, so it's feeding all of that information into the client folder is the goal. They're also about to roll out contracts, and so all of a sudden this PandaDoc, a completely separate contract that we're currently paying for, a couple $100 a month, probably 3 months away from being topped off by Productive because we can now run contracts within the system and we don't have to integrate or use a different tech stack. As I mentioned, it already links with Xero. We can't get rid of Xero because that's what our accountant uses, but I don't have to use the invoicing feature in Xero anymore, which I hate. And so we can simply just send invoices out of Productive and it just transfers everything between Xero and our accountant gets that. So we don't really have to use Xero anymore as a business, as an operational set, because Productive's allowing us to do that through its native integration. The other part too is that Productive now has AI. It has its own little agent that you can query and get information. And so our need and use of ChatGPT, I would say, is starting to fade. I would argue that we probably use it most now for creating funny logo variations of Chuck, who's our duck. But for the most part, any type of querying information, it just doesn't have the context. So you have to create a separate project to give it that context and add all the information in. Productive already has that within it. Now, I mentioned before Grain, there's so many different options to Grain, but it's under a full frontal assault from all of our other pieces of tech. And I cannot wait to get rid of it because while it is a great piece of software, it's very basic and it's expensive for what it does for us. Google has a meeting recorder, Gemini, everyone knows that one. The problem with Gemini is that it doesn't go to Teams meetings, it doesn't go to Zoom meetings, and if our clients send us an invite, now we don't have a solution to record that meeting. So Google Workspace is close, but not close enough for us. Spark, our email client, it has a meeting recorder, but it's a silent one. It doesn't come to the meeting and show its presence and announce itself that you're being recorded, which is a breach of Queensland's privacy laws. So we would every meeting have to tell them you're being recorded. Is that okay? Instead, the automatic one does it better. Loom also has the exact same one, but I'm not going to go to Loom because it doesn't have a native integration with Slack where it ports transcripts across. Loom's got this really odd business strategy right now where they're not allowing they don't have access to Zapier. You can't access Loom through Zapier. You can't do any type of native integration or automation. And so Loom has it, but it would kill off the ability to auto feed into Slack. Oh, sorry. And then probably, Notion now has a meeting recorder as well. So since I've created this presentation, Notion now has that too. So you've got 4 or 5 different programs all starting to provide very similar feature sets. And for us, all we're really looking for is for one of our 3. Oh, Slack does it too now. Slack has the AI huddles as well. So essentially the ability to rock up to any meeting and to have the same integration feature that Grain has. As soon as that happens, we'll essentially transfer out of that piece of software. So when I look at this, there's probably 2 or 3 pieces of software that within the next year, we will probably jettison from our tech stack and further double down and concentrate on the key ones that really provide us the value and have that native integration and further consolidate knowledge. Cool. let's talk about knowledge retention, and I'm going to give you some practical examples of how we do this right now. So a meeting as an event. Everyone here goes to meetings, whether they're in person, whether they're done online, everyone has meetings. Whenever we join a meeting, Green will automatically join. Now, all of our meetings are online because we're a fully remote team. So it makes it a lot easier. We don't have to remember if we're sitting in a meeting room to turn on the recorder. It simply rocks up every single time. So that makes it a lot easier for us. As soon as that meeting's done, an AI summary and a link to the recording goes straight into Slack. And that means that the team automatically has access to whatever happened there. Now, early in my agency career, we would often get to a meeting, we go, you're 300 an hour, you're 200 an hour, you're 150 an hour. This is a $1,000 meeting that we're sitting in here right now per hour. Is the client paying enough for that? And that's costing us a huge amount of money. And we go, actually, you go back to work and you don't need to be here. And you're not going to have much to say. You're just here for context. So you don't need to be in this meeting. And all of a sudden, it's a cheaper meeting. These days, so many of the meetings are just done one-on-one with our team. The clients that we work with love that they have that one-on-one relationship with us, but it doesn't mean that the other people in the team miss out on the context and miss out on the outcomes of that meeting. So they get the summary. If there's something specific they want to look at, they can go and look at the video link as well. But what that means is that that knowledge from that meeting has been retained. It's pumped into a Slack channel, and it's now a queryable database for our team at any point. And so I came back from leave. I took last week off. I was down in Kingscliff with the kids for a week, and I came back and I can go into any Slack channel. This one has 46 new messages. Fuck, I don't want to read that. It's like, give me an update since this date, and it'll write a couple of paragraphs on everything that I need to catch up on. I'm going to, great, that's all I need to know. Is there anything for me that I need to do? No, great. And I can essentially catch up on all of that information really quickly. If maybe something didn't go well, I can immediately go to the meeting to understand the context of what was said, but that knowledge is retained permanently. And that's a really key part here, is that so often when you do have those wonderful one-on-one relationships with clients, when that person leaves your organization, that knowledge goes with them. But in this situation, you capture everything. Cool. Example number 2, let's talk about a new task. Now, what I mean by a new task is maybe something that hasn't been done in your business before. For the most part, once you start to get underway and you systemize what you're doing, as a business, you're able to write SOPs, you can pass those down. I don't know if anyone finds SOPs effective. I certainly don't. I don't like writing them. So whenever there's a new task or something that the team doesn't know how to do and that I'm the first to do it, the very first thing I do is just watch me work. And so I'll open up Loom and I'll go through that process myself. In the early days, my Looms used to be really polished. I'd learn how to do it, I'd figure it out, I'd write a little script for myself, and then I'd rock up and record it. And I was almost doing double work, and that was a really frustrating part. These days, I don't really care what the video looks like. What's most important is the transcript that's auto-created from that. And so I can go instead take what would have been maybe a 10-minute recording that was really polished, instead just do it live in the moment, and Loom's watching me do it. It understands where I'm going. I just talk to the computer when I'm going to do that, and I've thought about this, I'm actually going to go this direction. And at the end, we get a transcript, and that's what's saved for us. And that's a really key part of what we're doing here. Now, that transcript is pushed into Notion. Now, in all of these diagrams, you've had teal lines. This is red. This isn't an automated process yet. And I'll talk a little bit about that it's not automated. While I'd love to, I've tried, but it doesn't work. And sometimes automation's not worth it. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But watch me work. We put it in the internal hub so people in the future know how to do it. Once it's in Notion, that means it's auto-shared with the team. And that means at any point in the future, someone can translate this. Now, updating budgets in Sky, the video that I recorded, which was the masterclass on how to do it, is a 45-minute video. No one wants to go and watch that full thing. No one wants to have to listen to me more than they need to. And so what anyone could do in Notion is essentially go and ask that same question. It'll take you to the relevant page in the recording and give that to you, but then you can ask more specific questions. I need to update it for this type of budget or for this type of client, and it will answer all of those questions because the transcript is there and the content is there. And so again, we've retained the knowledge of how to do something, and I don't have to do it again. The team member goes, hey, how do I do this? I go, did you ask Notion? because I know that the answer is there and I know the video is there. And so it immediately creates this system. We've got two hubs, Slack and Notion as well, where information is kind of automatically retained. Now, I mentioned here around this step is not automated. Loom has this really odd, like ring-fenced strategy where they're not integrating with things like Slack, where it just automatically sends it to there or to Notion. And so this is still a manual task. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to automate it into the hours and have had no success whatsoever. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about automation and some of the pitfalls to watch out for here is that this is how we all think about how automation should work. So we've got the time, over time, how much work's required in this original task. Let's just say it's taking up half our time there. The idea is we write some code, we create some automation, and once that takes over, the automation doesn't work for us and we have more free time. Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful theory. What happens most of the time is something a little bit more like this. You got the work, you write the code, you deploy it, it doesn't quite work how you would hoped it would work or how you wanted it to work. So you got to debug it. And then you go, actually, there's some context here I'm missing, or it doesn't quite have enough, or the tech stack doesn't quite solve these solutions for me. You rethink it, and then there's just ongoing kind of development of trying to figure out how to automate it, and there's no time anymore to actually do the tasks that you were after. When I talk about where is the payoff for us and how we think about it is I use this graph more than you would believe. So this is a 5-year impact. So how often do you do the task? You would do it 50 times a day, you do it every year, and how long does that time take the task? So let's use an example of, it takes me 1 minute to do, and I'm doing it yearly. I'm going to save 5 minutes over 5 years. So that's probably not worth us doing. What we essentially do is just draw a line in between, straight down the middle. Everything up here is worthless and not worth doing. Everything that sits below here is what's worthwhile. So anything that's taking, multiple minutes per day, maybe an hour per week, these are the sorts of things that we really focus on automating as an organization. This video link one here, it is a task in our project management system. And one person, our executive, most junior person in our team, the cheapest person in our team, once a week goes into Loom, copies all of the links, pastes them into Notion. It takes them about 3 or 4 minutes. And right now, yes, I would love to automate it, but to just simply have someone do that task for us, it's on a really cheap rate, is effectively my way of automating this task. Is that sometimes it's just not worth doing it. Sometimes it's just easier to get someone in your team that obviously is the cheapest person. But this workflow, it doesn't just work for Watch Me Work, and we use Loom in a range of different ways. So we do monthly reports for clients, as do most agencies. In the past, we'd send that report, we'd go and meet with the client for 30 minutes and we'd talk them through it, and that was always a nice meeting. These days, we display the report, we record a Loom, and we send that to them. And most of the time, they see it, they have their questions ready, and they ask them before we come to the meeting, and so we're more prepared when we come to those meetings with the questions. But it means rather than talking about the immediate performance and just talking about the now, we can start talking to clients about the future. Okay, this is what we want to do next. This is what we're going to change. And it gets you out of that day-to-day work and allows you to be more strategic in that sense. What it also allows us to do is to use it for email and comms. And so if anyone here writes me a long email, like one that breaks the fold and I have to scroll on, I hate those emails, right? What I hate even more is having to respond to them, because in client service, if they write a long email and you write a very short one, it's a little bit disrespectful. So you have to meet their seriousness with your seriousness. For me, someone that constantly overthinks everything, I might spend 15 minutes writing that email and another 10 minutes editing. Oh, they could misconstrue that, and that was a bit direct. I'll add a little smiley face at the end so they know I'm in a good mood. You're trying to add that context and tonality that's just really difficult in text. What I'll do instead is I'll say, hey client, thanks so much for this response. There's so much to go into here. I decided to record a little video for you. And what I've done is just recorded a Loom. I've gone through everything that they've discussed in their email, often in the email, talking about it, giving context, whether that's excitement about what it is or the seriousness that it deserves. But it means that I'm not going to be misinterpreted in the way I do it. I go, here's the video, and I send it to them, and then I can see when they watch it, because Loom tracks when someone watches that video. And so I can immediately understand that they've gotten my point of view. I can see how long through the video they watched, and I can understand better and communicate better. And it's a far quicker way than kind of writing out a very long email. All of those three feed into
what's the feedback from your customers on that when you send?
Really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Like way, way better than anyone. They don't want to read long emails either. I see this.
15-minute rant on the email.
I see this meme come up all the time where it's like, oh, I need to write a 4-page report. It's like, hey AI, write me a 4-page report. And here's 5 dot points, and it writes a report. And then the person who receives it goes, oh God, I don't have time to read this. Can you write a 5 dot point summary of this report? And so, all right, like you see so much of that. And I think more than anything, for us as a remote organization, building relationships is difficult to do.
Yeah.
You don't have that face-to-face time. You don't have that personal side, and email becomes alienating over time. And so Loom is not just an efficiency lever for us, it's a relationship builder.
Right, just one more point on that has just come to me that I think is so interesting, is we're moving into this point where the default assumption is that your counterparty had been lazy and used AI on the thing. In some ways, the usage of the Loom is like a way of bringing authenticity and realness into the engagement, because you can't fake the Loom. You can fake the email, and you can fake the document, but to put the effort into,
You can fake the Loom now.
well, you can't forget about that. You can't fake the Loom properly. So I just think it's an interesting byproduct of that approach, is that it shows you put some effort in, you haven't been lazy, you've engaged in an authentic way. I think it's a great idea.
No, it certainly isn't. What I really love about these workflows is that there's human context added to it. So I'm sure everyone here gets a report sent to them at some point, or you get, whether it's from an agency, whether it's from an internal team member, and the data's sometimes important, but it's often the interpretation and the analysis by that expert that matters the most. What do you think of this data? And for us in our business, it's, I know what's in GA4, I know what's in ads, I can see all those metrics, but what do you think of that? By us adding that context and recording that context, that's often more important than the data capture of the report itself. It matters less to me what the CPA was or what the metrics or impressions were, but of how that data was interpreted by a human expert. And so that's captured, and that's a really key part, is you're continually capturing what the experts think of this. In the same way, you're also capturing the context of communications in a really positive and encouraging way in terms of Loom. And so not only does this, our executive that takes the Looms and puts them into Notion, it's not just the watch me work anymore. Now it's the email comms and now it's the report. And what started as maybe 5 recordings a week is now 20, 30, 50 recordings per week are just being fed into this database. And while we may not get the immediate impact from that today, we know that over time, that context and that information there is going to be far more useful to us over time.
Sorry, Ryan, just on that point, can you just quickly tell the folks how you gauge the value of the asynchronous aspect of Loom? And
it started with questions. So when you start a business and people come to you and ask questions, I noticed as the team was getting bigger, I kept getting asked the same questions, and people will come to you directly and ask those questions, and you give them a response. And then 5 days later, a different person asked that. And you're like, I fucking answered it over here on a call that wasn't recorded. And so we just started recording. Anytime someone asked me a question, I would just record my response to that. And so for the most part, the major impact to me is less disruption in my work day as a leader, where I don't get the questions of where's this or how is that or what do I do here. Often that context is already saved and available. In the team.
Just quickly, with your video that you're sending, do people have the ability then to transcribe it from their email, or they could use an AI software themselves to? It's
got like if you go to Loom and on a video, there's a transcript underneath.
Yeah.
So
they still have the option if they're like on a train or something like that. They can just tap a read.
Yeah, they certainly do. It's searchable, which I find really useful as well for that sense. And so we've got these cultural defaults here, which is just 2 questions that we ask. Did you ask Slack and did you ask Notion? Is the first 2 questions I ask. And it's easier for me because I often know that the answer's in there. And so someone will come to me and ask a question and I'll have this like little smile and they're like, oh no. And they'll like, hang on. And they'll come back 15 seconds later like, I found the answer. all good, thank you, and that's the end of that query. Yeah.
There's a couple of us. How important is it to organise the information in sites like Notion to get like a valuable response when you're querying it? Do you have to have it all categorised?
It's a good question. I believe that it's becoming, this is a bit counter to what you're pointing out, Gordon. I believe it's becoming less important than it was in the past. We used to talk about data warehousing. Think about a warehouse for a manufacturing company. It's really nicely organized, all the things are in alignment and perfectly. And data warehousing is a really expensive activity to go about, making sure that that data is saved in the same way. Now we hear the terminology of a data lake, where it's like just throw it in. And I believe that AI and the context and the understanding will get better over time, where it's able to better disseminate that. But there is no we just feed it in right now. There's no transforming or getting that data to be similar in that sense. We just throw it all in, and our belief is in the future, whether it's through quantum computing or AI advances, we'll be able to make context of that without us having to clean that data as much. And even the way we record in, so the Loom videos that we have in Notion and the pages and the access to that, at the top of every page saying, when this was recorded, it was the best possible solution that our team knew at the time. If you know a better way, record it and save it here. And so often you'll go into some of our older documents and SOPs, and there'll be 4 videos all on top of each other. The one at the bottom is the one I recorded in 2020. I'm like, this is how you do this. And then gradually team members have been like, Ryan's an idiot. This is a much better way. And the next person that we hire is incredible, and they go, actually try this way. And so it gets better over time. Maybe there'll be a need to delete that old stuff in the future, but what I hope is that AI will be able to recognise that this is an updated video or a newer version of this same response. Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. Does Loom or Notion, does it translate into other languages? Do you know?
Yeah, if it doesn't, Notion has that functionality as part of its AI stack, is that it can translate that. So it just needs to be done in a database where you're essentially creating pages and databases, and then it will translate other versions in other columns for you. Yeah.
Interested in Slack, because we're similar agency to yours.
Yeah.
Have you got situations where the AI is uncovering private conversations with people?
It's a good point. There is one situation where we don't allow the meeting recorder, and that's one-to-one, formal one-to-one catch-ups, whether that's a performance review or whether that's just us having our weekly one-to-one. I don't let the meeting recorder come into those meetings.
I guess more speaking about Slack chats between team members.
Yeah.
Someone goes into AI and goes, what was Ryan talking about me? Sort of thing.
Yeah, it can't access private conversations at all. It's only open channels that it can access.
But Ryan, I also think it's interesting to Daryl's point there, how it's changed, how your culture has evolved because things are default transparent. Do you want to just talk about that?
Yeah, so our policy internally is open channel first, always open channel. And we have this same relationship with our clients. We have external connections with clients. Our best clients we have a Slack Connect channel with. And so often then I get a DM to me privately, and the first thing I'll say is, hey, can you please put this in the future, can you put this in the team channel? Because I've got 3 or 4 other team members in there. They're the ones with the context and the understanding of this. Even if you tag me, that's fine. What I'll then do is get the team to work on that for them. And so it's a default for us that needs to be public. We do not even if it's you're asking one specific person, it should still be in a public channel because that context needs to be there for everyone.
Yeah, no, I like that. I guess it was more that, if I'm having a conversation with a senior about someone, that really needs to be locked in. But yeah, the DM.
Of course. Yeah, anything that's kind of critical of someone, or it's feedback that's maybe not, seen in a positive light. So
yeah.
Sorry, Ryan.
Impact bang for our buck.
Is huge.
No handovers needed when you're going on holiday, so the team doesn't need to prepare handover documents. Onboarding's reduced from 3 weeks to 1 for new chunky ducks. Internal support queries to myself and my business partner have halved. We still have no account managers in our business, which is probably one of the biggest costs there. On an agency financial modelling, billable hours is what we want. The internal hours and lost hours are where we lose money or where it costs us a lot of money. Financial impact, utilisation increased by 11% or 25%, how you calculate it. Capacity increased, we have 1,800 hours a month, so an extra 200 hours. If we're able to sell all of that work, it's a difference of about $45,000 a month in increased billings with no extra cost. just pure profit falling straight to the bottom. So it's a huge efficiency play for us. We've been able to build a lot more work because of that. Process thinking, timeless strategies. Success is not a matter of if, but when.
Is Ryan, how large is the company? So just trying to sort of
we're
contextualise.
15 now.
15 staff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so very similar to a lot of you guys here, so.
Yeah.
Hey, super exciting.